All right. This is my first video. Hopefully not my last. So excuse the probably shitty production quality if you really want to consider that there is any production quality. This is going to be kind of an unscripted video. I'm just going to talk about the graphics cards that I own, GPUs that I own, kind of talk about them a little bit, why I like them, what makes them interesting. As you can see, the collection sitting right there. There are quite a few of them. I've put them in release order and not in purchase order. Yeah, little show and tell. I expect this to be pretty long again, about 20 minutes maybe, so feel free to double speed if that's your thing. For some context, I love computers. I've been building computers since I was 16, so we're about 8 years into this now. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my 750 Ti. This is the 750 Ti for the Win 2. Shout out to EVGA, huh? RIP. It's a cute little GPU, isn't it? Just about 2 slots, 2 fans, pretty thin, pretty small. Only a 6-pin power, external power. Tiny little guy. Doesn't even have all the PCIe traces connected, so not much bandwidth going on. She's not doing much. This was my first ever dedicated graphics card. I remember I put this in a pre-build. We had the family computer, the home computer, and I wanted to play games on the computer. And so I asked my dad, I was like, what would it take? Yeah, it came out 2014. I mustered up whatever money I had and bought this card and a cheap 450 watt ketchup and mustard power supply, and went to a computer shop local, and I was like, put this stuff in it. They're like, okay. So they put that in it, brought it back, and I played games on it. I played like Call of Duty Ghosts, Titanfall 1. Wow, right? Transformers War for Cybertron, if any of you remember that game was fun as hell. But yeah, tiny little GPU. This is special to me because it's my first one. It still works, which is good. I'm happy about that. I don't have a use for it. Just sits pretty on my shelf as a reminder of my humble beginnings, right? But yeah, that's what's special about it to me. Next, in 2016, this is the RX 480. Bit of a bigger card, as you can see. This is where I started getting into computers, as you can probably tell. It's the Strix model. So not necessarily the highest, but the most expensive RX 480. Again, this still works, which is good. This is interesting because AMD re-released this like twice. They had the 480, right, in 16. And then later on, the 580 came out, right, which was just a refresh of this. And then the 590, which was a refresh of the 580, which was just a refresh of the 480. So this stands out because it's a really good mid-range option. So much so that I don't think we'll ever get a good enough mid-range option like this again. 8 gigs of VRAM, pretty good, very good 1080p performance at the time, I believe, and decent enough 1440p performance, given that it had 8 gigs of VRAM. And a single 8-pin power, so pretty power efficient as well. Long live Polaris. I love Polaris. But yeah, it's special to me because, again, it was a really good mid-range option. I had it for a few years, and it kind of carried me into my passion for computer hardware. It has RGBs, my first GPU with RGB. That's crazy. Yeah, 2016 release. Next in the release schedule, we've got... They just all fell. That's fine. The 1080 Ti, GOAT of all GOATs of graphics cards, of all computer parts. Is that too hot of a take? Now, what's interesting about the one I have is that it does not work. I bought this actually very recently, just about a month ago, to add it to my collection of GPUs. It's still mint. It had the like plastic peel on it, and I peeled it off, which is crazy because someone just had it sitting, presumably. There's a tiny bit of damage on the PCIe slot. I don't know if the camera's going to be able to see that, but that might be the reason why it doesn't work. Might not be the reason. I was told it doesn't work. I haven't actually tried it, but nonetheless, it's just to look pretty because, by God, again, it's just so pretty. This came out, I believe, I want to say end of Q1 of 2017. I looked up the release dates like 5 minutes before recording, but I don't remember the months. I was just looking at the years. This came out before Vega, which is really interesting because Vega was touted to be the Pascal killer, even the Volta killer, if I remember correctly. But we all know how that turned out. Nvidia could not iterate on this. I remember when Jensen got on stage during the 2080 reveal or the 3080 reveal, and he was like, Pascal owners, you can finally upgrade. Maybe I'll put a clip of that here.
To all my Pascal gamer friends, It is safe to upgrade now.
It still holds up even today. 11 gigs of VRAM. That is crazy. 11 gigs. That's insane. Roughly $800. Again, a pretty good asking at the time. I'm glad to own the Founders Edition or the Reference Edition, whatever they called it at the time. I can't remember because it's very, very pretty. And it's much heavier than I expected. It's again tiny compared to cards these days. In terms of the physical design, it's about two slots, maybe 2.5. I don't really know. Both external power connectors. So it did eat up a lot of power. The final of the Nvidia blower design cards. SLI, kind of insane, kind of crazy. The SLI fingers are there. I had the choice when buying a 1080 Ti. I had the choice between this and the FTW3. FTW3 is just so pretty, but it was like $40 more expensive, and I was like, I don't really need it, so I went ahead and bought the Founders Edition, which can't go wrong with. I still remember the memes when this came out of how this looks like a Ninja Turtle. Maybe I'll put a PNG up of that. Who knows? Or JPEG, whatever. But yeah, I'm proud to own this card. 17-year-old me would be very happy. Next on the release timeline. But obviously I had it before I bought the 1080 Ti. The Vega 56. Now this one's weird, right? Why would I want a Vega card? Because these fucking sucked. This was the Sapphire Nitro Plus Vega 56. Again, just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. Came out after the 1080 Ti, kind of crazy. But I remember I wanted a Vega card really, really bad because it had HBM. This is when I started getting into like the real hardware behind computers. And so this Vega card specifically fascinated me. As you can tell, again, there's a water block on this. I'll get into that a little bit later. But this one fascinated me because it had HBM and because it was technically very interesting. This wasn't the first card to use it, but it was the last. I haven't seen a card consumer available that uses HBM since this card, or the Vega 64 rather, but you get the idea. I bought it kind of at the end of its life cycle, just so I can get it at a decent price. I think I paid roughly $300 for it. But yeah, let me talk about HBM a little bit. Some benefits to HBM are that it's really fast, really, really fast. And power delivery is a little bit better, a little bit more efficient. And the reason is because it's packed with the chip. So typically, I'll probably put up a picture explaining this or adding visual aid. But typically, the graphics chip sits here, and the memory will be scattered kind of around it. With HBM, high bandwidth memory, the memory itself sits with the chip. So that allows it to be super fast because it's right next to the chip. And for the same reason with power delivery, right? Power delivery is easier because it just sits right there where you're delivering most of the power anyway. But one downside is that it's very expensive. This card launched at, I think, $350, $400 maybe. It only had 8 gigs of VRAM, which is like, maybe back in the day that was okay. I don't really quite remember. But today, looking back on it, that's kind of ridiculous, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So that was what really fascinated me about this card and why I really wanted it. And so I bought it, and I messed with this a lot. I undervolted it, overclocked it. I used liquid metal as my first introduction to liquid metal. So you can tell I'm kind of getting to the enthusiast grade here. And then finally, during the pandemic, I got into water cooling. So I put a water block on it, and by God, this card is gorgeous. It's just so pretty. You can see all my transformers and my displays in the back there. It's crazy. But yeah, I modded the shit out of this card. I put liquid metal on it. It has a dual VBIOS. A dual VBIOS dip switch around here somewhere. Having a hard time focusing. There you go. You can see the tiny little dip. But yeah, dual VBIOS. So I was able to flash the Vega 64 BIOS onto this card, the Vega 56. I didn't get much out of it. My card was kind of a dud in terms of overclocking, which kind of sucked, especially after I put the water block on it. I was like, I'm going to be able to push this further. I was not able to push it further. That kind of sucks. But it was a lot of fun to mess around with, a lot of fun undervolting, overclocking, messing with the VRAM or the HBM. I messed around with this so much that I killed it. It does not work. And I have suspicion that it was due to one of my half-fast liquid metal applications. So I think I shorted something somewhere. I haven't bothered to check if it works. I haven't bothered to rebake it. I think if I baked it again, put it in the oven for a few minutes, maybe it would work after that. Who knows? Another thing that this was kind of the introduction for me was like not hardware modding, but like modding computers, because you can see the card itself was massive already, even with this water block, but the cooler extended further out past this PCB. Um, in lieu of the like flow through designs that are now popular on the Nvidia side. The back plate also hung out a little bit with the cooler. And when I put a water block on it, I knew I wanted to put the back plate on it, so I cut the water block or cut the back plate short to be flush with the PCB, and painted it white to match my build. So yeah, my love for computers is just skyrocketing at this point. Liquid metal, spray paint, um, absolutely gorgeous card. I'm in love with how this card looks. And I'm proud to own it because it's a really beautiful piece of technology. Not that it was good, because it was not. Also, driver instability was crazy on this. Absolutely batshit. Hot take, AMD has not recovered in terms of driver stability. Since Vega, they had problems on the 5700 XT. I believe they had a few problems with Navi 2 as well, the 6700 XT, and a few problems with the 7800 XT kind of generation. Kind of sucks. I hope that HBM makes a comeback. I would like to see that, especially since textures are getting huge and games are just getting bigger and bigger, and VRAM is becoming more and more of a debate. I think it'd be cool to see mass-produced cheap versions of HBM today if it's possible. Obviously, they haven't done it in a long time, so maybe it's not possible. But yeah, HBM, Vega, cool. Next on the release schedule is the 5700 XT that I mentioned earlier. So I bought Vega end of 2019, I believe, and about a year later I had killed it. So I was able to find a 5700 XT for a good price, which was good. This is the Sapphire Pulse model. So I wanted the cheapest 5700 XT because I knew I was going to be putting a water block on it. So I bought the cheapest one that I could find, the Pulse model. It's a bike ski block, same as my Vega 56, because, you know, they're good enough. As you can see, I also did some more modding to this. I did mod the backplate, but the backplate's not on here right now. I can't really remember why I did that or why it's not on here, but I do have the backplate. I know where it is. And it is cut short again and painted white, just like the Vega 56. One thing that the Vega 56 didn't have on it was this kind of frosted vinyl wrap that I put on it, and combined with the RGB strip that sat here at the bottom, the RGB was like perfectly diffused. So I'm a big fan of like white aesthetics and RGB aesthetics, as you can tell. But yeah, I applied this frosted vinyl wrap and put this to cover the solid white vinyl to cover the reflective part that the Vega 56 also had. But I just applied that here. I used this card for a long time. It's water cooled since the day I bought it, effectively, maybe a couple days after I bought it. But I used liquid metal on this, and I found out a lot about it, and I have not used liquid metal since because thermal paste is good enough, and I don't want to mess with it anymore. So yeah, this got me obsessed with hotspot temperatures. So I tried all the washer mods to get the contact to be proper on this crossbar here. I did everything I could to get that hotspot delta between or under 10 Celsius, but I don't think I could. Yeah, not a whole lot to really mention. A lot of underclocking a lot of overclocking and undervolting happening here as well. Just a lot of fucking with it, you know. Fortunately, this does still work. Again, no use for it, but it still does work. One gripe is that they had the 8+6 pin. Why not just make it the 8+8? Come on. But whatever. No big deal. A lot of fun to mess around with. Good enough performance, I think, for the time. 8 gigs of VRAM again, just like the Vega 56, just like my RX 480. So a little bit disappointed that I couldn't have gotten something with more, but maybe back then that was kind of the norm, so it didn't really matter. And yeah, I kept this for a few years again. And my build kind of evolved around it. I upgraded the cooling solution. That's when I got my Mora 360 that's sitting over there now. So yeah, my water cooling setup evolved around this, and I didn't really upgrade performance for a while until I got an adult job with adult money. The RTX 4090. My God, she is thick. with 4 C's. That shit's crazy. Funny enough, this is the slim model. So if you thought this was chunky, this is not the chunkiest model. In fact, MSI says that this is supposed to be slim and sleek and lightweight. Yeah, right. You know how some people say, you know, I had a kid and I loved my first kid so much that I had a second kid. Or, you know, I got a dog, I got a cat, and I love my pet so much that I bought a second one. I bought a 4090, and I love my 4090 so much that I bought a second one. And I know I shouldn't, and I'm sorry on behalf of all gamers out there, I guess. I don't know. Oof. But I shouldn't love this card as much as I do because it's very powerful. And it's kind of impressively efficient that they managed to get this under 600 watts. You can slap me through the internet if you want to. I won't blame you. But I think it's very impressive. My first 4090 is the Aorus, the Gigabyte Aorus gaming OC model. It sits over there. It's water cooled in my system. This is in my HTPC outside, connected to my LG C2. So 120 hertz 4K. I decided, you know what, fuck it, I'll buy another 4090. So here's my second 4090, pinnacle of my kind of love for hardware and computers in general. 12 volt high power, little dramatic boy of the ADA cards. I haven't used any of the angled adapters from CableMod or anyone else because I haven't had the need. So I guess that's kind of a blessing in disguise that none of my builds have really necessitated it. But yeah, fortunate that none of them melted. With the success of the 4090 and ADA in general, and the now boom of AI and stuff, I think Nvidia will be able to charge anything for the 5090. I do plan on buying it. We'll see if that story changes whenever it's announced, which should be at Computex here in a couple months as of recording this. I'm very proud of my journey of computer parts. Very proud to own this 4090 as well as all the other cards that I have that have been a part of my journey, the Vega 56, 5700 XT, the 1080 Ti, which technically wasn't a part of my journey, but still proud to have it. And I'm proud of you for tuning in, watching this video. What are we at? We're about 20 minutes into recording. Of course, with cutting and whatnot, all the mistakes that I've made, it'll probably get shorter. But yeah, just wanted to talk about my graphics cards. Thank you all for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully you've learned something. Or if you want to discuss any of these GPUs, let me know. Just hit me up. I love talking about computers. I love engaging with the community, like on Reddit or Twitter. Oh my gosh. Guys, there's plastic on this. Do you want to... Let's see if the camera can pick this up. Or if the microphone can pick this up, rather. Fantastic. Incredible. I'm very grateful that I discovered that. I'm kind of confused because how did I miss it? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.